Well, talk about a surprising turn of events. Bethesda recently revealed a sequel to the 2011 id Software shooter Rage, an announcement that I'm pretty certain no one saw coming. Rage was a game that had many technical and design flaws, which prevented it from becoming a staple franchise of id Software, in the same vein as Doom and Wolfenstein. However, it amassed a cult following in the 7 years following its release, and it is now looked back on as a vastly underrated title within the Bethesda library. I only just recently decided to pick it up for cheap on PC and play through it in anticipation of the sequel, and I have to say that it's certainly not as bad as people claim it is, although I recognize its flaws. It is ultimately those flaws that make the announcement of Rage 2 a truly miraculous occasion. Why is it miraculous, you might ask? Well, the original Rage was decently reviewed by critics, as it sits at an 81 on both Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, with a slightly lower 79 on PC. Commercially, however, the game is largely considered a flop, one of the few from such a highly renowned studio as id Software. So it's rather surprising that Bethesda made the decision to greenlight a sequel to an unsuccessful title from their past. It raises many questions, one of which is there potential in this franchise that Bethesda recognized has yet to be tapped? I honestly don't see any other reason to revive a dead franchise than this. Clearly, based on the gameplay trailer and the small fan base from the first game, there is an interesting universe to explore in Rage. It also presents an opportunity for Bethesda to do two things. One is to experiment with new and unique gameplay hooks in a newly revived series with a small fan base that has room to grow from the introduction of new players. The second is to gain another, hopefully, critically and commercially successful IP for the purposes of expanding their arsenal of other fantastic published franchises like Dishonored, The Evil Within, Wolfenstein, Doom, Prey, and so forth. One other thing to be gleaned from this announcement, to quote Mr. Matty Plays, is that if Rage as an IP can be revived, any IP could feasibly be revived in the future.
I feel this is good for also gaming in general. The reason I say that is because Bethesda is reviving a series that quite honestly had no right being revived. I like Rage, but if you told me it was getting a sequel, I'd be like, what? Because it just seems like such a random IP for Bethesda to go out and redo, but Bethesda's been doing that with Prey, Doom. They're the ones who created, for example, Dishonored 2. It underperformed by a lot, and they still decided to make Death of the Outsider. Same thing it seems to be with Prey, which underperformed, but Arcane Studios is teasing a new Prey expansion. Personally, I think this is good for gamers because it shows that any IP can maybe have a chance.
Shortly after Rage 2 was announced, GSC Game World announced Stalker 2, another sequel in a long-dead series, just to provide one example. Another example is the recent reboot of Prey, which will be receiving a DLC expansion of some sort later this year, despite its commercial failure. If Rage, Stalker, and even Prey can come back from the grave, who's to say that we couldn't be seeing more franchises come out of hibernation? It's certainly going to be interesting to see if Rage 2 can capture a larger audience than the first game and sell enough copies. Whatever happens, it's good to see that Bethesda is giving Rage the second chance that many believe it deserves. Those are my thoughts on the announcement of Rage 2, but what do you think? Does Rage 2 look interesting to you? Did you play the first game? And if so, what did you think of it? Let me know the answers to these questions in the comments down below, and also consider subscribing for more content like this. Also, big thanks to Mr. Matty Plays for inspiring me to make a video on the subject of Rage 2. His Rage video I mentioned previously will be linked in the description below. And remember that the outsider walks among us. Thanks for watching.